Hey everyone, Jamie Hopkins here, and I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is why your retirement income strategy, right, your glide path, is likely wrong. And it's a really interesting one. So what most people know, and you've probably heard this before, the 60-40 portfolio, and somehow go to retirement and have 60% of your assets in stocks and the other 40% in some type of fixed income like bonds, and then slowly decrease that equity over time. So you'd think about this as, almost every year you age, move down 1% in your equity over time. So then you're 59-41. That's a very popular one that was actually made famous. Or you can reallocate, as I put down here, every time Taylor Swift puts out a new album, you drop down your risk profile. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's actually a lot of research that says this might not be the best strategy, but it still persists today as kind of the go-to golden thumb rule or standard. So the question remains is, what is the right allocation? Well, the interesting thing about this is it's a very hard question to answer. Right? There's big challenges out there. Two big ones that plague all retirement income strategies and glide paths are sequence of returns risk, right? Big loss early in retirement makes this really challenging. The second one is the time frame. So are you going to be retired for 10 years, 13 years, 45 years? That makes this problem really just dynamic and difficult to deal with. There was a very interesting paper that was just published in the Journal of Financial Planning, the June 2024, which talked about guaranteed income and optimal retirement glide paths. One of the findings of that was actually that often if you are a risk-averse person with a high level of Social Security, right? So a lot of Social Security, not a lot of wealth, you should actually start with a very high allocation to stocks. A little bit counterintuitive because we think about people with less money maybe should be more conservative with their investment portfolio, and actually their finding found that to be the opposite. So the more Social Security or guaranteed income you have often allows you to take on more risk, more higher values in equities. And actually, if you were not risk averse, it actually says to keep that high allocation. Some of the best performing strategies, if you say 75% of your income was going to come from Social Security, you should almost be invested in 100% equities if you personally were okay with that level of risk. Now again, different challenge. So one of the interesting things when you look at this is if you include Social Security into the glide path calculations, you actually saw that the declining equity glide path of removing and becoming more conservative over time was actually very suboptimal in their research. And in fact, for a lot of people, especially risk averse or moderate people, should start more with maybe a 40% allocation to equities and actually increase their equity allocation over the course of retirement. Really complete opposite of most of the advice that you get out there. You actually move into higher risk, higher return possibility long-term that way. And that's very interesting because almost everybody is doing the opposite of this today. We are getting more and more conservative as we age from our investment portfolio. While there is research out there, and actually other research has suggested this before too, there is an article by Michael Kitces and Wade Fowle that was published years ago that also showed a very similar outcome, that a rising equity glide path in retirement is actually more optimal for a lot of people than a declining equity glide path. The interesting part about this research was wrapping Social Security into that and found the big impact that Social Security played on an optimal portfolio. Higher Social Security values as a percentage of your total retirement income impacted this even more. A little bit counterintuitive to how a lot of us think. And that is why I think most people's retirement income glide paths are wrong today, that we have to challenge the status quo. We have to look at what the research is saying, but we also have to marry that to how people feel. And not everybody would feel comfortable with a rising or declining equity glide path if you look at all the factors. So thank you everybody for watching this video. Hope you're doing well. Stay safe and healthy.